In the past, we humans have been pretty reckless and compassionless in the way that we've treated the planet and the animals that we share the planet with, but thankfully some of the damage that we have caused can be undone. Some of the world's most well-known animals were once on the brink of extinction with only hundreds left, but today they have bounced back due to protections and conservation efforts. These animals have shown us that with a little help they are able to thrive and achieve their historic numbers, and this offers hope to other endangered animals in peril. In today's video, I'll be going through just a few of the most interesting examples, and we'll start off with a true giant that you really don't want to get on the wrong side of. The Indian or one-horned rhino is native to the Indo-Gangetic Plain, and across their range they face a wide variety of formidable animals. They often share their ecosystem with leopards, tigers, and crocodiles, but these predators rarely challenge fully grown adults. This is partly due to the fact that they are the second largest rhino species in the world, with the largest ever specimen weighing in at 4 tons, and also because they are pretty unpredictable and are quick to charge. Over the past few centuries, it hasn't been big cats or even crocodiles that have caused them the biggest problems, as unsurprisingly we humans have had a massive negative effect on their numbers. In the wild, they thrive in lush areas with lots of long grasses to feed on, and they're also particularly fond of water, often spending their days wallowing in rivers and lakes. Over the years, we have reduced and destroyed their natural habitat, and global warming has made flooding and other natural disasters more common across their range. If this wasn't bad enough, they were also relentlessly hunted in the 19th and early 20th centuries, and the pesky British were mostly to blame. Reports from the 19th century claim that British military officers shot more than 200 rhinos in Assam alone, and by 1908 the population in Kaziranga National Park had decreased to around 12 individuals. At this point they were almost completely wiped out, with only an estimated 200 remaining in the wild. Since these very dark days, different protections have been put in place for both the rhinos and their habitat, and today they have an estimated population of just over 4,000. They are now being reintroduced into areas where they once roamed, but they aren't quite out of the woods yet. Poaching is still unfortunately a major threat, but instead of being hunted for sport, they are now being hunted for their horns. This means that just like the rhinos of Africa, they require armed protection in some parts of their range, and it's tragic that so many of their kind are slaughtered for a body part that has no medicinal value. Hopefully in the future their numbers and their natural habitat will continue to grow, as they are one of the most iconic mammals in all of Asia. For our next section, instead of focusing on one species in particular, we'll instead be focusing on 2 different species across 2 continents. Even though they are separated by the Atlantic Ocean, both the European bison and the North American bison have had very similar stories over the past few hundred years. The European bison is generally taller and it has longer legs than its American counterpart, but the American bison is generally bulkier with a greater maximum weight. In Europe, humans have lived with bison for thousands of years, with some bison species appearing on ancient cave paintings. Since the time of these artworks, we have also been hunting them, and this is one of the main reasons behind their rapid downfall. The European bison once had an extensive range across Eurasia, but due to hunting and deforestation, they were completely extinct in the wild by 1927. Thankfully, a few small populations were still hanging on in captivity, with an estimated 54 individuals being found in zoos and private collections across Europe. At this point, it was very likely that they were going to completely disappear, because even though they could breed and grow in number, these animals would have very low genetic diversity, and a disease or illness could wipe them out. Despite this, a group of conservationists decided to help and a captive breeding program was started, and against all of the odds they managed to pull through. From the tiny population of 54 animals back in 1929, they now have a population of around 9,000 if you include both wild and captive animals. They have been reintroduced into many countries across their former range, and this is brilliant news for the ecosystem as a whole. I've always thought that it was very strange that even though the 2 bison species live on completely different continents, they face similar threats and they almost met the same fate. Before the 19th century, there were an estimated 30 to 60 million bison roaming across North America, and it's a real shame that we'll never get to see how the landscapes looked with this many bison. This example really illustrates just how destructive we can be, as by the late 1880s there were fewer than 100 left in the wild. Unlike the Native Americans that would only hunt what they needed and use the whole animal, the Europeans would shoot as many bison as they could, usually only taking their skins and tongues, and sometimes returning to collect their bones once their bodies had decayed. This total disregard for wildlife had a massive effect on the ecosystem as a whole, but somehow we still have American bison walking this planet today. Once it was realised that the bison could completely disappear if nothing was done, eventually some action was taken and the 100 individuals were split into 6 different herds. 5 of these herds were managed by private ranchers, and one of them was managed by the New York Zoological Park. At first, understandably, the growth was slow, but over the years the pace picked up and today there are an estimated 500,000 individuals. All living American bison can trace their roots back to the lonely 100 individuals back in the late 1800s, and this just illustrates how resilient nature can be if you give it a chance. When you think of the North American ecosystem, you think of the bison, and it's crazy to think that if action wasn't taken when it was, we would have never gotten to see these animals with our own eyes. The Iberian lynx is one of 4 extant lynx species, and as you might be able to guess from its name, it's endemic to the Iberian Peninsula. Like all lynx species, they are incredibly stealthy and elusive predators, and they feed on a few different animals across their range. Sometimes they will target animals as large as deer, but the Iberian lynx is known for being reliant on one species in particular. Predators that can deal with rapid changes in their ecosystem are usually the animals that succeed in the modern day, and this is especially the case with predators that can deal with changes in prey availability. The Iberian lynx definitely doesn't belong in this category, as European rabbits make up around 75% of their diet. For many people around the world, the European rabbit is a pest, as it's been introduced into many countries around the world, and once it becomes established, it's very hard to get rid of. The European rabbit is one of the strange examples of an animal that's an extremely successful invasive species, but it's actually endangered across its native range. Like most animals, they have been affected by habitat loss and hunting, but the majority of their threats today come in the form of viral diseases. Myxomatosis and RHD have killed millions of rabbits over the years, and this has resulted in a drop in predator numbers. Because the Iberian lynx was so dependent on these rabbits, they really started to struggle, but this wasn't the only hurdle that they had to face. Many of them were lost to road incidents, and they were once hunted both legally and illegally. They hit their lowest point back in 2002, with only 94 individuals remaining in 2 separate populations. At this point it was clear that action needed to be taken, and with the help of captive breeding and the restoration of their natural habitat, they are going strong today. At some points over the years, conservationists not only had to reintroduce the Iberian lynx, but they also had to reintroduce rabbits as the lynx was so reliant on them. Today they have a population of over 2,000 cats across the Iberian Peninsula, and this kind of success is only achieved with dedicated planning. So even though things are looking a little brighter for the Iberian lynx, they still have a lot of land to reclaim, and hopefully we'll see them do so in the future. One of the things that you might notice about these stories is that none of these animals have been able to recover on their own, and in almost all of the cases, we humans have needed to step in and undo some of the damage that we have caused. Conservation and rewilding is crucial to help our planet to recover and for endangered species to bounce back, and that's why I'm so excited to be partnering with Planet Wild. I've been a fan and a member of Planet Wild for a long time, but if you're new to what they do, they're a community-based nature protection organisation. Each month, the more than 13,000 member community fund conservation and rewilding projects around the world to protect wildlife, restore ecosystems, and tackle environmental crises. For me, one of the most amazing things about Planet Wild is that you can actually see the impacts that you make, because they document everything that they do and what's been achieved here on YouTube. Personally, I love their project in Southeast Asia where they rescue sun bear cubs from poachers and train them to live on their own in the rainforest. If you're touched by stories like these, then you should really consider becoming a member and making a real difference, because they really need your help and it gives you an opportunity to become part of a conservation success story. If you want to join a growing community that makes a difference in nature, consider joining Planet Wild. You can give whatever amount you're comfortable with, as every dollar counts and makes a difference. And because I truly believe in what they do, I will cover the first month of the first 100 people to sign up using my code Tsuki9, either through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code. You'll immediately have an impact on nature, and you'll see the results in less than 30 days on YouTube. There's no catch, and you can cancel anytime, no questions asked. Thanks to our friends at Planet Wild, and I hope you join me in making a difference. The Steller Sea Lion is mostly found in the coastal habitats of the North Pacific Ocean, and they play a very important role in their ecosystem both as prey and predators. Even though they are pretty clumsy on land, they are skilled predators in the water, feeding on a wide range of fish, crustaceans, and cephalopods. In some very rare cases, they'll even target other pinnipeds and sea otters, but these bulky mammals need to watch their backs too. Orcas and great white sharks are their main predators, but the large males can be more than a mouthful, with some of the largest specimens weighing over 1.1 metric tons. From the 1960s, some Steller sea lion populations started to plummet, and unsurprisingly, this wasn't the result of being hunted by other marine mammals. Once again, humans were responsible for them vanishing, but not in the way that you might think. Even though we humans have caused pinniped populations to decline through direct hunting in the past, this wasn't what was affecting the Steller sea lion. Instead, it's believed that overfishing led to reduced prey availability, meaning that they simply didn't have enough food to eat. The western Steller sea lion population went from 227,000 individuals in 1960 to 45,000 in the year 2000. Even though these numbers aren't as dramatic as the previous animals featured, I think it's important to include them because of why it happened. Everything we do can have an effect on the ecosystem as a whole, and taking too many fish from our oceans has a massive knock-on effect to predators. While some Steller sea lion populations have started to recover, some populations, such as the ones around the Aleutian Islands, are still struggling. Hopefully this won't remain the case for too much longer, and both the fish and the sea lion numbers can return to their former glory. The tiger is one of the most formidable and feared predators on this planet, with the Siberian tiger being the population that reaches the largest maximum size. This population roams across northeastern China and the Russian Far East, and across their range they have no equal. They'll target prey as large as adult moose, and even other predators such as brown bears aren't safe from their jaws. Even though tigers will claim the lives of humans frequently across some parts of South Asia, Siberian tiger attacks on humans are relatively rare. This is partly because of behavioural reasons, but also because there aren't many of them left, with fewer than 600 remaining in the wild. Of course, at one point in time, it was a lot worse, and this was all due to poaching and human-wildlife conflict. Because tigers are a threat to humans and livestock, many of them were shot, and their natural habitat was turned into farmland. If these were the only threats that they had to face, then they probably would have held on, but unfortunately their body parts are also very valuable on the black market. Their skins have always been viewed as a status symbol and a display of power, and their body parts are still used today in traditional Chinese medicine. Their bones are used as painkillers and in some cases to expel cold and wind, but unsurprisingly, it's been proven that tiger bones have no medicinal value. The demand has led to wide-scale poaching and illegal farming, and this was the main reason why there were only an estimated 40 Siberian tigers in the wild by 1940. Thankfully, conservationists stepped in, implementing bans on the trading of body parts, and eventually a ban on tiger farming. The Siberian Tiger Project was founded back in 1992, and by capturing and outfitting tigers with radio collars, we have learnt a lot about their behaviours and how to mitigate human-tiger conflict. Captive breeding and strict enforcement of laws eventually made a difference, and today they're in a much better place. The frigid East Asian ecosystems are much healthier thanks to the return of this apex predator, but I'm sure the brown bears aren't too happy that we helped them. The blue whale is easily the largest animal alive today, and it's possibly the largest animal to have ever lived. They can be found almost all around the globe, but much of their lives are still a mystery to us. We're only just fully understanding where and how they breed and give birth, but one thing we do know is that they can hybridize. At first glance, the fin whale can be confused for a blue whale as they are closely related, but the fin whale is slightly smaller and it's actually the second largest whale in the world. These two whales are so closely related that they sometimes breed and create hybrid offspring, but tragically even these animals aren't safe from something that's plagued their kind for thousands of years. During the Industrial Revolution, the demand for whale meat and blubber skyrocketed, and this led to the mass slaughter of whales around the globe. For the whales, it was a very slow and painful way to go, and this was made even worse by the fact that whales are incredibly complex and compassionate creatures. They are inquisitive and playful, and there have been multiple cases where they have appeared to help animals in need, even though it doesn't benefit them in any way. It wasn't just the blue whale, but pretty much all whale species that were affected, and in the 20th century alone, it's estimated that 2.9 million whales were killed. Many of the world's most iconic species were teetering on the brink of extinction, and it's believed that the blue whale population dipped to as low as a few hundred individuals. Eventually, the blue whale was given protections in 1966, and later on in the 80s, most countries put a ban on commercial whaling altogether. I would love to say that this was a happy ending and all the species were able to live out their lives in peace, but as I'm sure many of you already know, whaling still exists today in a few countries around the world. At least the protections have allowed the blue whale to bounce back and thrive, as they have an estimated population of around 10,000 to 25,000 individuals. Really, for this section, I could have included a few different distinctive whale species such as the humpback whale, which went from a low of 5,000 individuals to over 135,000 individuals today. I decided to include the blue whale as it just illustrates that no animals are truly safe from humans, even the largest animal to have ever lived. This is really quite a disheartening thought, but as the blue whale has shown us, nature won't give up without a fight. Of course, there are so many other animals that I could have featured for this video, so if you have any good suggestions, then let me know down below. Once again, thanks to our friends at Planet Wild. You can support their amazing projects by becoming a member through the link in the description or by scanning the QR code. The first 100 people will get their first month free and you'll see your impact in less than 30 days. In the meantime, you can check out what they are currently doing and their past projects on their YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.